This conversation is becoming the new communication protocol in
Yeah.
enterprises. They're not using TCP/IP. They are using prompts in English going back and forth, and like the amount of cracks I think is just insane.
The LLM becomes a delivery system to attack. We call it attacking the ecosystem, and I just see no one talking about it right now.
How do you define an incident in this particular space? How do you detect an incident? And the third one being, if you do detect it, how the hell do we stop this?
Prompts between employees and AI and some geolocations in the world are considered private, so you can't even do observability or logging on them.
The biggest data poisoning that I'm actually seeing is on the business side for sales, injecting basically ratings for businesses. If someone asks you, how can you be attacked by AI, and you don't have a good answer because you haven't threat modeled yourself, you're screwed.
State of AI security. Yes, we did an episode on state of AI security last year. And this year we're back again talking about the state of AI security from a lens that is perhaps more offensive than defensive. I had Jason Haddix, Daniel Miessler, Caleb and myself talking about where is AI today since the last time we did one, how much has changed, what are some of the true realities of how far an AI can go. We spoke about some of the people on the edge of AI security and how much of it is actually truly being used to discover new vulnerabilities in 0 days. We also spoke about whether it's the scaffolding around the LLM model or the LLM model being intelligent that is the secret for having a lot more success with AI security. We also spoke about some of the reasons for why browsers are top of mind for everyone and why they are continuing to evolve as the industry races towards what's the future for consuming AI-based applications. I would warn you, it's a bit of a long episode, so I appreciate your patience through it. It's a price for someone dropping a comment in the end for what was some of the things we spoke about right in the end that stood out for you. And we will have a special prize for you if you leave a comment for what you found to be the most interesting piece in this long episode. I hope you enjoyed this episode with Jason, Daniel, myself, and Caleb. And if you know someone who probably wants to understand what is the state of offensive security with AI, and the current state of AI security, definitely share this episode with them. As always, if you are listening or watching an episode of AI Security Podcast for a second or third time, I would really appreciate if you take a moment to hit that subscribe or follow button, whether you're listening to this on Apple or Spotify or another platform, or you're watching this on YouTube or LinkedIn. I would really appreciate if you take that second to just hit the subscribe, follow button. It means a lot when you support the work we do here. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts about what the current state of AI security is. Enjoy the episode, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace. Hello and welcome to another episode of AI Security Podcast. I've got Jason and Daniel with me. Hey guys, thanks for coming to the show.
Yeah,
Nice to be
thanks
here.
for having us.
Thanks for having us, yeah.
Maybe we can start with introductions. Jason, if you want to start first, just a bit about yourself.
Absolutely. My name is Jason Haddix. I run a consultancy called Arcanum Information Security. We do a whole bunch of offensive security services. So red teaming, pen testing, web application testing, stuff like that. We do purple teaming, and then we do AI assessments as well. So we do AI pen tests and AI red teams and AI scaling assessments for security teams. And then we also do some pretty popular industry training as well. Spoken all over the place, been 20-year OffSec veteran, I guess you could say that, and done a lot of bug bounty work as well when I was with BugCrowd. Yeah.
Awesome. Daniel?
Yeah, so Daniel Miessler, thanks for having us again. I got a company called Unsupervised Learning, and my background is all security as well. And after leaving the corporate world in 22, I'm basically building apps to upgrade humans. That's what I'm doing.
I love that. And maybe to set some context before we started recording, I was talking about how the AI security definition has changed. For obviously, we did a
state of AI security.
State of AI security.
Yeah.
We spoke about the state of AI security last year. Come a long way, at least in AI terms, we have come a long way. I'm curious, and I think maybe all of us can chime in there as well. So maybe Jason, to start off with, how do you define AI security today and how far it has come based on what you've been doing in this particular space from 2024 to today?
Yeah, I think AI security can be taken two different ways, right? So you can use AI to help you in your security processes, right? You know, your program management, your technical tools, all that kind of stuff, right? And that has definitely evolved with the buzzword of agents these years, right? Like this year, it's the only thing you can see at the Black Hat floor right now is agentic this, agentic that. And then you also have the state of AI security as, you know, as a vulnerability and as a threat landscape, right? Like attacking the systems now that are implementing AI, right? And so both have come a long way in the last year. I think we did like a special on Dan's Unsupervised Learning channel on just like how much stuff we saw at the RSA floor in San Francisco. It's very similar at Black Hat, and by this point, the research is very similar as well.
People the same vendors,
same vendors, same vendors,
yeah. If you didn't know where you were, you would think you were at
yeah. But I mean, I think that a lot of people are realizing that like the complex systems that they were dreaming of with agents, they're not always possible. And so they're better used sometimes in single instances of, like use case based tasks, which you're seeing a lot of pop outs in, security dashboards that like help you analyze text. And like LLMs are really good. Our AI is really good at, consolidating text, doing research and stuff like that. Now we have tools and protocols now and, all the agentic stuff. So there is some automation that can be done. But it's
and MCP is new from last year.
MCP, yeah. I mean, listen, I try to keep it real, like with the capabilities, right? Because I don't want to mislead anyone, but I do think the capabilities are getting better. I mean, we were just talking before the show about OpenAI launching the new open source model 2 days ago, and I hooked that up to our offensive agenting framework. And it was able to solve like 4 CTFs I threw at it with just some RAG and just access to Puppeteer and Playwright MCPs and that model. And I mean, that's a junior pen tester right there. Like, and so like, I want to keep it real. It's not as easy as it seems. Like not everybody's going to go out and be able to build an expo in their basement, but it's also not as hard as it seems in some cases too, to get real value out of these systems.
Yeah. So. And you never know. In the next year, maybe building an expo in your basement becomes very possible. And very feasible.
Maybe.
Yeah. I feel like the whole scaffolding thing is just getting started. I feel like a lot of people think that the quality of the AI is going to come from the models itself. And they're like, oh, the models just can't do it. I think most of the value for like truly end-to-end agent systems is going to be in the stitching together. It's going to be in the piping, the scaffolding. And I think companies are just now figuring that out. And I expect that to like get much better in the next few years. But I mean, the stuff that I'm building already, you could already do some pretty crazy stuff. Claude Code particularly.
Yeah.
So what I've been doing is essentially building all my different tools that I built over the last 3 years and integrating them into Claude Code and basically saying, here are all the tools you have available, right? So custom commands, MCP tools, and then you just give it a goal, including testing, like you were saying.
Yeah. All your recon and OSINT framework too.
Yeah. And if you could do a command line web assessment and basically it can go and parse all that context and find the vulns, I'm really excited about where it's going. But I think the scaffolding stuff is going to be required before you can actually start building businesses on it.
Yeah.
Because it's not dependable enough.
It feels like when I think about the state of what we were thinking in our minds a year ago versus today, for sure what I've heard is like, we had tool usage in LLMs a year ago, but we didn't have MCP like we have today. And the tool usage has gotten so much better, so much more accurate. And then you add MCP on top of it, and it's become so easy now. Yeah. So tools have really, which then creates this sort of agent thing. Yeah. But the one thing in security, like I like to think about is, when I think about AI security, like just, AI security as a whole, we were really, I think last year thinking about, well, what are the real problems, right?
Yeah.
Prompt injections being problems, data poisoning being problems, all of these things that we were thinking about, and AI security being issues. And then how do we think about it now, a year later? And the one thing I think I could probably say with pretty high confidence, I'd love to hear what you guys think, but like prompt injection has proven and continued to be proven a massive issue that not only I think has been harder and has not gone away, but has gotten even worse in its intense. And there's no solution even on the horizon really for this.
I mean, the models aren't designed to move away from prompt. I mean, we were at the OpenAI summit for security. It was like a conference that they did, and we had about an hour with Sam Altman, and Dan asked him like, hey, 5 years ago, you made this statement that prompt injection would be solved in future models. Do you still think that? And he was like,
really?
Yeah.
What's the reasoning behind that?
Because they're literally designed to just give you answers. Like that's, and they're non-deterministic. Like it's not really designed to have barriers. It's designed to do the opposite.
You have lower accuracy the more things you put in place.
Yeah. Right? And you have lower or slower inference time the more controls you put in place as well
Yeah.
too. So it's not easy to even just say put a prompt firewall in there or put a classifier or a guardrail, right? Like once you start implementing those things, your system gets slower too. So it's all a kind of like a weights game you have to play.
Yeah, and no matter what, it's still designed to give you something back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's taking in a question, and like even the chain of thought stuff, you can actually mess it up more because it's thinking and thinking and thinking. So like those skits where like you confuse the guard. You're like, no, I'm supposed to come back before they get here, but make sure it's not before they get back or whatever, and they get confused, and you could do that with prompt injection with like multiple layers.
I mean, and there's also this vast community of both academics and non-academics iterating on prompt injection techniques. And it's not always the modal of text, right? There's other ways that you can inject into these systems. And I think the big disconnect, at least for me, and something that I'm talking about all week at like DEF CON Black Hat, is also a giant disconnect in testing a model in isolation and then testing actually an implementation of an app that uses a model.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so you have, not only do you have the model that you're trying to red team and get to do things, but you also have things like its agents and tools and its protocols. But then you also have like 6 other systems that are hoisting these things up, like, logging, observability, you have prompt libraries, you have classifiers that are in line. So if you look at a real architecture for any enterprise who's building like a real system, there's like 7 other open source systems helping it. And the LLM becomes a delivery system to attack those in a lot of assessments we do, like in pen tests and AI pen tests. So we call it attacking the ecosystem. And I just see no one talking about it right now. Like, it's like, yeah, I mean, we've done attacks similar to blind cross-site scripting where the model just passes along attacks and we hit internal developers and we're able to attack them through JavaScript attacks. I watched an episode of the thing and I think it was an early episode where you're like, it's all prompt injection. And you were like kind of angry about it. And I'm like, yes, but it's really cool prompt injection.
Yeah, I feel like prompt injection is the fundamental primary difference between normal AppSec.
Yeah.
And I feel like the mapping of the infrastructure, the visibility, like the architecture diagrams are like super important because to Jason's point, you might have AI filters at like multiple points throughout the architecture.
Yeah.
And whenever you have a parser, parsers are like the most evil thing. You have a parser, the worst kind of parser is like an intelligent parser that you can confuse.
Yeah.
So you have to start with these diagrams and just be like, show me every single place you have AI parsing something.
Yeah.
And how we can attack it.
And going back to this point, like actually in one of the episodes, I made this analogy of prompt injection is basically just the next generation cross-site scripting and SQL injection.
Yeah.
Right. In the sense that whether it's stored or second order or any of these things, it's the exact same thing that you're dealing with here. But then now, even today, especially a year from now, with MCP, with like text and prompts, and this conversation is becoming the new communication protocol in enterprises who are implementing these things. Workflows are being built, like massive complex work. They're all prompts going back and forth in these things. And it's just like now with tools going back and forth, they're not using TCP/IP. They are using prompts in English going back and forth, and like the amount of cracks I think is just insane. The attack surface becomes amazing.
Yeah, we talk about a couple this week that are we didn't develop them, but a company called Haze Labs developed one called Bijection, which I renamed to Bring Your Own Encoding, where you tell the LLM you have created a new encoding schema in a prompt, and then you just speak in that encoding schema that you made up yourself. So you say letters A through P are mapped to
it's
A
custom
through P.
encryption.
Yeah, it's
custom protocol.
And then you speak to it, and it's got like a 99 percentile pass against most enterprise level guardrails because they just never had that in the training, right? And that's just an instance of looking at it and being like, there are going to be so many ways to bypass these things, alternate languages, act as interpreters.
Video streaming.
Images. Inputs.
Yeah.
I mean, we, like a lot of the, we're not, unique in this, but making images with prompt injection statements on them that capture by OCR that filter through the system.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be a cat and mouse game, but I think it's more going to be the cat game, I think, for quite a while. Yeah.
I mean, so for funny enough, because I probably see the other side from a blue team perspective, a lot of this. What I found AI security, at least the first RSA we had, there was a lot more about, hey, it's going to end the world, and everyone thought Terminator. So the last RSA was a lot better in terms of at least some of that fear had gone away. But a lot of the conversation that I had was revolving more around the fact that, oh, I use LangChain. So there are people already talking about we're using multi-AI agent.
Yeah.
How much of it, whatever that the stage was.
Yeah.
What I find, at least right now, there are almost like multiple versions of AI in an organization as well, where someone started a project, they went down the LangChain path,
Yeah.
and then someone somewhere decided, actually, you know what, MCP is a better thing. So now just suddenly the entire thing is shifted,
Yeah.
but the previous model is still working on LangChain.
Yeah.
Where you have another, to what you said about the ecosystems. I love that.
Yeah.
Kind of emphasizes that point where I'm also finding that a lot of people have different versions of this going across the board.
Yeah.
One team has made their own version of the AI models that they've gone through. Another team has picked up, because for whatever reason they wanted to be open source, they didn't have the budget or whatever.
Yeah.
They've gone down another. I feel like that's a lot more common now, where I'm having a lot of conversations around supply chain, third-party LLM. I think the bug part is still prompt injection, to what you guys said. It's still very much top of mind.
Yeah.
But there's also not a lot of conversation around, how do you define an incident in this particular space? How do you detect an incident?
That's an interesting conversation.
Yeah, and how do you even find out that?
Let's do it.
Oh,
Yeah, that's a good one.
I can do it. So,
Yeah.
how do you define it? How do you get even detect it?
Yeah.
And the third one being, if you do detect it, how the hell do we stop this? Because
By the way, this goes way
Yeah.
off the state of security.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
This
but-
is way too interesting.
Yeah, so
sorry.
I mean,
To go
but
into.
I feel it is still relevant for state of AI, because today at the moment that is not top of mind for people as well.
No, good point. Good
Yeah,
point.
because
Well, I mean, I might have a counterpoint there.
Yeah.
I think I'm likely to say that they're largely going to be the same. 'Cause
Okay.
I feel like the impacts are still going to be very similar.
Okay.
The fundamentals of what you care about losing are going to be the same. I think it's more the attack path that changes.
Well, like, what's a good example though of like how do you even define an AI incident?
Well, that's my whole point is, did you lose data? Was something stolen? Was there IP theft?
Was the organization attacked or harmed?
Yeah.
in some
Right,
way?
right.
Yeah.
So at that point, like the damage, the impacts are kind of the same. The question is like, how did it happen?
The thing that the reason why I said, oh, that's interesting and it's a little spicy is because I hosted the AI Security Summit, and this was a topic at the AI Security Summit, was that like prompts between employees and AI and some geolocations in the world are considered private. So you can't even do observability or logging on them. And so, how do you monitor for a breach or malicious activity or something like that from an employee or a partner or something like that, or anyone who's using your feature, when you can't log?
That's a really good point. If someone
Right.
puts into Slack, ignore all previous instructions, you're not allowed to log Slack.
Yeah. I don't have a solution for it, but it is definitely something we talked about, or one of the guests talked about on the stage. And so I think that, like it's different for different countries, I think, right? Like I think GDPR will have a massive impact on AI regulation, and if you're able to do that logging and monitoring at all. And, like you can get intent-based like alerts from a lot of the systems, like in the AWS ecosystem, and you have, a lot of guardrails and classifiers there. You can get alerts that there was malicious intent, but you can't look at the actual prompt in some geolocations. So it'll be interesting to see how we build the security around the systems themselves. And then also like Dan was talking about, there's so many tools right now and everybody's moving so fast. I would love to say that the stuff we see in the real world is complicated, but it's not. It is the agents being scoped to use an API, and the API having read and write access.
Yep.
And then we pop the agent with natural language prompting. We tell it to do something right into the ecosystem, put attack payloads on on Confluence pages or Jira tickets or things like that. And it is not complicated. It is very much, I don't have to use a lot of the fancy tricks that I know about in some sense. It's because it's just, people are moving so fast.
Well, that's the advantage that we have, right? Is that it's AI for just a second in like a new type of way of attacking. The moment it's not AI, it's AppSec. Everything else is
it's
AppSec.
AppSec and red
AI is a
teaming.
veneer.
Yeah.
Sort of on top of it.
It feels very much like traditional red teaming to me a lot of the time too. Yeah.
And I guess a lot of times it's still hygiene that protects you from all this as well.
Yeah.
Than anything
don't
else.
scope those API keys to write.
To
if you
your
can
point,
avoid
it's more of a AI gives it just a different entry point.
Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
using the model as an entry point a lot of times. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the architecture, those diagrams, understanding, being able to threat model yourself.
Yeah.
Like if someone asks you, how can you be attacked by AI and you don't have a good answer because you haven't threat modeled yourself, because you don't know all the different places that it is inside of your app, that you're screwed.
I just gave an example in our last podcast recording on giving the audience the exact attack mechanism to attack me via my AI.
That's funny, yeah.
Was it via-
That's
was it
funny,
via
Yeah.
email?
Email attachment specifically.
Of course.
He's already heard the episode as well. Before it's even out. There you go.
Yeah.
No, but I think to your point about the AWS one, it's an interesting one. We did a recording with, I think, the detection response team of Anthropic, and we were talking about the current landscape of building AI applications using cloud, Amazon Bedrock, and others.
Yeah.
We did a comparison between, actually, this is another episode. So it was on Cloud Security Podcast. We spoke about what is it to deploy AI applications in Azure versus AWS and where do they lack. And to what you said, a lot of things are not even being logged.
Yeah.
A lot of things are still almost like you're finding a needle in a haystack. I think the policies you apply, they apply across the entire Bedrock model, not the, hey, that open AI thing that you kind of use, I don't want you to use that. You can't go granular on it.
Yeah.
But it's not that people only use one, they use multiple versions of it.
Yeah. And with the poisoning attacks too, it fits a little bit more akin to like malware detonation, I feel like, in organizations. So, in very complex systems, which there aren't a ton of, like maybe the top 10% of organizations are doing very, very complex systems. They'll have a protocol like MCP, or they'll have some agents that take in context, and you can write prompts that say, don't execute this attack until like a week later, right? And so then how do you go back once the attack does execute? One of the techniques right now is variable expansion. So you define a variable, a prompt injection as a variable in one prompt today. And then tomorrow or the next day, I go back and I call the variable to the system and it detonates basically. And so that's more like malware detonation. But like, how do you do forensics on that? You're like, so you have one variable that comes through as a prompt, and then you have to like track it back through the agent or through the MCP. And you're like, okay, so like, and then this was defined where, if you don't have the logging and observability, it's like, how do I do that? And so there's, like the complex systems that we will get to, it's going to be interesting, how we protect.
What do we think about, we talked a lot about data poisoning a year ago around, hey, it's early. And actually, I think our predictions were like, hey, this is going to become a worse problem. Have we seen that? Have we seen data poisoning become a worse problem?
I don't see it much, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at those frameworks like MITRE Dread and, the OWASP LLM top 10 and stuff like that, they talk about data poisoning as like a premier attack vector. And I think we've only seen it once or twice, right?
Well, if you remember like 22, it was like, that's what all the academics were talking about.
Yeah.
It's how are we training the models?
Yeah.
But like in the enterprise, it's not really.
So still prompt injection right up there. Any kind of prompt misuse or malfunction, all of that.
And then your overall AppSec story behind that.
Right.
Yeah. So to your point, you got the entry. Now you're back to basics of AppSec.
Yeah.
Oh.
But there have been a couple instances of public like poisoning. So, the most premier jailbreak team is Pliny the Prompter and his jailbreak team, BT6, the Bossy group. And they're the ones that jailbreak models within like 24 hours. They'll post about it on Twitter and stuff like that. So
they just did 4.1.
They just did. Yeah, they just did it. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so they're actually going to be at DEF CON this week. We're doing a panel and we're going to ask them questions. But like one of the things you see with their stuff is they have created repos on GitHub and other places so that when these big models train again on internet data, they have defined variables for their jailbreaks. And then when a new model comes out, that's the first thing they try is they just call their custom variable name.
Yeah.
And it's, it's in the training data. It's not even, you don't even pull. Yeah. And so, so that happened in 3.5. It happened in 4. I think 4.5.2, I think they did it. And so those have been the instances we've seen.
And have they proven that this works
in
all these models?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah. And so they released their jailbreaks too. So you can see, I mean, that world is fascinating. Tokenization and jailbreak like methodology, tricking the boundary between user and system prompt. Those are what I geek out on. I love reading those white papers.
And I love the fact they have them all on GitHub.
Yeah, they have them on GitHub. Yeah. So
what's our prediction going into for a year from now on this? So prompt injection, absolutely way more validated. It's going to get worse.
Yeah.
Data poisoning, we have not seen much activity, but there are hints of, hey, the more complex people are understanding how dangerous this is. Do we think a year from now we're going to see some more examples of this affect the enterprise somehow?
The biggest data poisoning that I'm actually seeing is on the business side for sales.
Okay.
Injecting basically ratings for businesses. So
yeah,
basically, the new
manipulation of
SEO.
SEO, manipulation of reviews and stuff like that.
Yeah, because more people are just going to a model to say, what should I buy?
Yeah.
So if you start blasting and you can get that into the LLMs are actually sending people tons of business.
Right.
So I feel like that might be
because people have
vector.
started buying products using LLM as well now. I think both Perplexity and OpenAI both have capability to shop using that as well now.
Yeah, but I mean, you can go on Amazon, and Amazon has an AI bot that'll tell you what to buy called Rufus. So, and that's been hit twice already by 0 days with prompt injection. So, I mean, it's going to become a feature of every site. Here's what you need to buy based on your shopping history. And I will buy that stuff. It tells me to buy Magic the Gathering stuff. I'm going to buy it.
On that note, just as a completely abstract aspect, Facebook ads are amazing.
They are.
Yeah, the algorithm for Facebook and
can't look
Instagram.
at them.
I can't
look at them.
Wait,
because I just start
why?
buying things.
In fact, I just want an app with just the ads.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Like Facebook, if you can listen to this, please give me an app with just the ads.
Yeah.
I don't want anything else.
I would pay for it. I would pay for the app that only showed me those ads.
Yes.
Facebook,
Why?
Facebook it's so
insanely
targeted.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Everything on there I want to buy.
Yes.
Yeah. Everything that I've spent more than like 15 seconds looking at, it knows. And it's like, hey, okay, you're this type of nerd, you're this type of nerd, you're this type of nerd. And then it just starts delivering stuff to you, and you're like, I gotta close my wallet.
Custom flashlights, knives,
anything that you like.
Yeah.
And the thing about what's crazy to me is like, these are things that I want, but I didn't know I wanted. I saw Facebook showed it to me, and I'm like, I want that.
They have literal magic.
Yes.
They have magic.
You know, the funny thing in all this is, I feel like there's a line on the table here in the between generations, because I'm like, I have not been on Facebook for so long.
Oh yeah.
But somehow you guys are very active there. I'm going
only for the ads.
Only for the ads as well.
Only for the ads.
I mean, I think Facebook gets used for like your family, right? Like, your parents.
Like your parents are still
uploading
posting
pictures of your kids or your vacation.
No, but that's why I said I feel like I don't want to say my generation, but I feel like a lot of people in my friend circle.
What are you trying to say here?
Yeah, I'll let the people. I'll let the people on the podcast when they watch the video judge on this.
Okay, fine. We'll talk about TikTok. That's what you want to talk about.
Fair. I mean, I guess, but coming to the point, I feel like what you guys raised about data poisoning, prompt injection, and everything coming back to the basics of AppSec, I feel is there a level of maturity of attack that you find that would happen the way we are today? Because I think we were talking about this earlier in another episode, where how far can someone go today? Obviously, you said you're using it for a lot of your work that you're doing.
Yeah.
How far are you able to go without having any human intervention? Because I think that's where it gets scary, where it's like, people are like, it's autonomous.
Yeah.
So how far can you get on it today, even with 4.1 or whatever the
Yeah,
latest
I've
comes
got
out?
an answer if you want to go.
Yeah, I mean, you can get pretty far. Like I said, like I think the magic is in the plumbing, like Dan said, in the architecture. So let's just take web testing, for example, like breaking into a website, like web pen testing or something like that. You know, you have companies that are at the forefront of it and can do a complete web assessment, right?
Yeah.
But literally, I could walk you through in 10 minutes, opening your laptop, installing the Puppeteer MCP, hooking it up to Claude Desktop, and being able to pop most cross-site scriptings in like 15 minutes. And that's where we're at right now. You can do that. And I think like just a lot of people are catching up to like I know to use the scaffolding, the Puppeteer MCP, the Playwright MCP. I know how to also build the prompt for an XSS bot. I think a lot of people are catching up there and realizing like, oh yeah, this is really simple. Now,
which goes back to Daniel's thing about the scaffolding.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's funny because when we have kind of in the circle of the AIxCC competition at DEF CON, and they're building the cyber reasoning systems. In fact, I have one on a floppy disk that I got from a friend right now. And it's
floppy disk?
It's a zip disk, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, right? Dating, yeah.
Where do you even put this?
It's like
do you have a thing that
it's
actually
a special edition, it's a special edition, like badge life, kind of thing for DEF CON,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
so that's why they...
You can see why there's a line in the table, right?
Yeah. Not many people...
He does not know what you're talking about.
It was like a super floppy disk that held like 128 megs or something like that. And back then...
They were great.
They were great. Yeah,
the big
fantastic.
clunk in the...
when you put it in, you got that Satisfy. Yeah. But the cyber reasoning systems, those are systems that are in the AIxCC competition today, which will conclude on Saturday. And those systems are find bug in repo, exploit bug in test bed, patch bug in production. So it has to do all of those things to be considered a winner. And it's really interesting because obviously there's going to be a winner. There's 6 teams competing, and they all can do this. They've already proved it. And one of them will win, what, $1 million on Saturday?
$1 million.
$1 million
for this.
from DARPA. DARPA runs this competition.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And when we have talked to people who are competing, it's very interesting. Some are heavy AI analysis for the fuzzing or the vulnerability identification. And then others are almost zero AI. The AI is actually the plumbing between like regular algorithmic programming, like methods for, security work.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to see the dichotomy of like how they approach that competition.
Who do you think is going to win? What strategy do you feel?
So I used to play on Shellfish, the CTF team for UC Santa Barbara. Now it's ASU as well. I'm rooting for them, but I also have friends who work at Trail of Bits.
That's what I'm pulling for.
And so I'm kind of pulling for both. Like if either one wins, I'm hoping,
Trail of Bits is a hard one to beat.
It is. Yeah. They have some smart people there.
I think it's going to be one of the groups with the best system, the best scaffolding. I think is going to win. I feel like Trail of Bits might take that, but yeah, I think the place that all this is going is, in my opinion, is just automating the entire thing. So I'm going to start with what we all come from, which is web security background. So like you said, you start off by browsing the app.
Yeah.
So basically what I'm doing is I'm taking each individual small component, one of which is browsing. So if you give it a target of like, look, I want you to learn everything about this application. Here's your burp command line. Here's your Kaido command line, whatever you're going to use. Go get all that stuff, dump it into this directory. Oh, by the way, here's your credentials so you can do forced browsing for if you have a login or not. And from there, you have a methodology. Go read the entire methodology and start going through the list. And as you find new things, put it in the context. And you're going to have to like summarize those because the context is going to get too large. And that process of the summarization and recombining and zooming back out, the other thing you could do is you could find all the custom bugs. This is like, I'm working on this later. The AI has to get a little bit smarter, but you could take a custom bug that somebody found manually that pieced together like a whole bunch of lows and a whole bunch of mediums, 7 different steps to get a crit. You give them a whole example of that and you say, look, this is your job. You already browsed the app. You already have all these logs. Now go look and try to do something like a human manually did it.
I talked to a lot of startups that are chasing this dream, right? And even some of the most popular ones that we know of can't achieve this level at all because it's very, very difficult, at least today, obviously, right?
Also
but
the
like,
chaining?
because there's sort of like when you think these lows, they're on the surface are sort of these disparate, non-connected things.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay.
And like, let me give you like a simple example. Okay, you crawl a website. It has an image. It's hosting images off of an S3 drive. Yeah. Well, if you actually go and delete the image, the S3 is listable. And so there are objects in the S3. Well, you go through and parse the objects in the S3, you notice something that looks like credentials. Well, you also notice in the crawling of the website that there's an auth page. You apply what look like credentials from that S3 object into the auth login. These very disparate low things are one, if you think about true assessments, that's a lot of context you have to keep in hand. And then also, these are very, very unique, disparate things that you kind of put together. And a lot of startups are trying to chase this aspect of these business logic or multi-flaw, and no one's gotten close, right?
A few people are getting close. Expo is definitely getting close. I mean, they're already crushing it. I don't know what your opinion is on it.
I've heard.
We should probably talk about it after you say
There's some plus and minus there. There's rumors and all that kind of stuff, but no doubt they're doing good stuff. The problem is with connecting all those pieces is the AI is like very fragile and broken. So when you're trying to get it to exchange all these pieces, it'll just make very silly mistakes, which all comes back down to this plumbing thing of like, when that gets better, it's going to be able to unify those threads a lot more consistently.
So it's not a smarter LLM. Like if it could do reasoning, it's not going to be like that.
Well, that's why I'm saying the intelligence of the model and the intelligence of the system are like two separate things. And I believe the intelligence of the system is likely to win that competition.
Interesting.
We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, I think for this specific use case of offensive security, I think that you really have to fragment into many agents, right? So the architecture for almost every company, including Expo and including anybody else who's doing this, is like overseer planner agent,
Totally.
and then an agent for XSS, an agent for SSTI, an agent forever. All those have RAG, which enrich their ability to do that type of testing. Then they have like workflows to do the actual testing, which is like, a web interaction toolkit, which like Puppeteer, Playwright are the ones I use. And then go back to the planner agent. And then the planner agent has the methodology, right? And then it breaks that out. The more you can fragment the workflow and keep context tight for the one vulnerability you're checking for, is really good. And then you see other ones that expand after all of those agents for those single vulnerability types have done their thing. Then they try to find the combining bugs. So like account takeover, right? Like forgot password combined with XSS is the simplest example I can think of, right?
Yep.
Is like, okay, so if forgot password leaks an email, and then I have XSS, and I can chain those together to enumerate every user on the platform and, do account takeover if they have like, internal like change password or something like that, right? And so most bug hunters have written that blog at some point in their life, or red teamer or pen tester, right? But you have to have a separate bot to do that. Your XSS bot cannot be doing that because it's supposed to check for the one thing it's good at with the best context and the best tools for that. And also the other ones I've seen, they're not doing this in a vacuum either. They have layers of agents. So they have two XSS agents. One is based on the model trying to do things with custom rigging, like Puppeteer and Playwright with tools. And then they're also using a bunch of automation like Burp Scanner or Zap Scanner or something like that.
Yeah.
And then coming back and combining the two agents as results.
Which I feel like it's very feasible and doable, which is I think people like Expo do that are very good at is a named attacks. I feel AI can do.
Yeah.
But to me, business logic flaws, misconfiguration flaws, these kinds of things are not named attacks. They are a plethora of random information that you can synthesize to apply it in the right ways. How do you think this will get solved?
Yeah. To me, it's still about building that system. You build the system that has all the individual pieces like Jason's talking about.
Which you need. That's low-hanging fruit.
Right. But then you feed it goals. So you're supposed to lean on the model to help you think, right?
Yeah, just like an MCP. Yeah.
Exactly. So you basically say, look, here are your goals. Look, keep in mind, if they lose data, this is bad, and we get paid for that, right? All these different things will get us paid. Here's a known list of things that have got us paid in the past, known list of vulns. But keep in mind, you can do anything you want.
Right.
You have all this context. So now it starts exploring the context, and the better the model gets, the more magnification you get from having that better system.
Right. And I think you were going with this where, because it's not practically possible today, the startups that you're talking to, that's why it's a dream for them. Because
I feel like the other thing is I am optimistic, and I do have hope that I do think this is plausible, in the future. I don't see it today. And I feel like it's very, very difficult today. I think it's easy to find cross-site scripting. I think it's easy to find SQLi. Yeah. Like these things, I think you can be very
enough knowledge about the space.
They're very distinct, very, very clear attacks, except maybe in multi-stage types of scenarios.
It's the multi-stage stuff that's really,
I mean, in testing, it's always been like stages of feasibility, like it's like a simple attack, tick or 1 = 1 or something like that to bypass a login, right? But then you start adding security controls in there, and then the bot needs to know how to bypass security controls.
Right. But I think it can do that pretty well today.
Yeah. I was just going to say that the additional thing is like these methodologies that you're talking about, the business logic ones, the second order attacks, like these are more complex bugs that seasoned web testers have exploited, and a lot of the companies that are succeeding right now in the industry have teams of seasoned web testers defining methodologies that aren't really written other places. So Expo has a team of world-renowned bug bounty hunters behind helping them build that model.
Because you have to have now supervised training data.
It's almost like supervised training.
Yes.
Yeah. And so they have, I'm sure that in the prompting, they have some
awesome... they're just instructions.
Yeah, they're just instructions.
This is what I'm saying. The better that system... And the better the smarter the people, the more expert they are who actually train it, the better it's going to be.
Yeah.
So it's not, I guess, a lot of the conversation we've had so far about this particular space has been there has to be a human in the loop to validate this. But obviously, we've gone down the path where if you're talking about Expo as well, I think it topped the HackerOne ranking.
It just became world.
So
world
it's
number
top
one?
It's top on the world in like total points, I think. I'm going to butcher this, but But if you talk
it's
to
murdering the bottom end, right?
Yeah, it's all
Yeah.
cross-site scripting, SQLi stuff.
I mean, they've had
More
some
scale.
They've had some decent
It's
like,
just done at
like bugs
scale.
in there. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, you
But to your point,
yeah.
I guess where I'm going with this, and going back to what you were saying, that's where I was going with this. So it's likely that because a lot of them were individual bugs rather than a complication of business
Correct.
logic flaw
Yes,
or
correct.
so I think that's the nuance that
Yeah.
people are focusing on, but rather they're talking
Yeah.
about, hey, we hit number one,
Yeah.
but what kind of bugs were found? Were they an actual bug that you see in an organization where it's a multi-stage one rather than a cross-site scripting, which is obvious and it's also internet facing?
I mean, still, you can't discount also
No.
the repeatability and the scale that it gives you, though.
Yeah,
right?
and I don't
Like,
think I don't think anyone is downgrading.
Yeah,
the
that's
aspect.
right.
Yeah.
What we're trying to define is
Yeah.
the level of evolution where we
That's
are
right, yeah,
on
that's
that.
right.
Yeah, obviously, first of all, like making a simple statement. If I can eliminate the world from XSS and CLI,
yes.
the
You've
state
changed
of
the world.
security is
Security is,
way better for the world, period.
Yeah.
Right? No matter what method you use to do that.
100%.
Yeah, but just in the evolution of AI, where are we at today?
Yeah, that's right.
And then where do we think about in next year,
Yeah.
does XBOW get into
Yeah.
where we can do business logic flaws, where we can do
can we
multi-stage?
make an expo in a garage?
In a garage,
well,
right? Yeah.
Really, that's the promise of the competition Jason was talking about. Is like, this is a thing, it's going to be released.
Yeah, they're releasing all the code for
You release the whole
AIxCC.
thing. This is a system that can crawl the internet and fix things.
Yeah.
So the way I've been framing this is like, it's going to be automation, like trying to understand a target, defenders trying to understand a target, and the two competing agent systems are fighting, right? And the role of researchers is to improve the systems.
You know, just to kind of bring that up, and maybe this is shifting the direction a little bit, but one of the things that we always talk about in AI is obviously the fear,
Mhm.
which is, attackers are going to use AI.
Yep.
And oh my God, like you need AI in order to defend against AI. And this is inevitable and it's coming. So everyone will agree with this factor. However, if I were to be a little bit controversial, I'll post out there. And I think like when you look at what has happened from say last year to this year, I mean, I don't know if attackers have really used AI in the areas or impact at the level at what we thought. Right. When I go and I ask people, give me some true, real examples of where sort of the attackers have been using AI to great efficiency. You get, obviously the deep fakes and the voice clone calls. But other than that, there's really not a lot that I've seen anyone answer in terms of the real effects of what the attackers are using today.
So my question there would be, what do their phishing numbers look like? Because AI is not going to look like an AI attack because there's like no such thing. It's just a better attack of another type.
Sure, like automated OSN, better spear phishing emails.
That's what I'm
this
saying. Is phishing getting better? Like,
It's a
yeah,
good
I mean,
question.
You also have to ask yourself the question of like, okay, so we had like, maybe 12 router and VPN companies get popped last year. And that was one of the biggest things on the CISA report and the Verizon data report. We don't know if they used AI to audit that code to find those pre-auth vulnerabilities in all those systems, right? We don't have that visibility.
Great point.
They could have
that's
used
right.
AI to help find those 0 days, but that's still human in the loop. But I would be very surprised. I don't have any insider data or anything, but I'd be very surprised if they're not, like trying stuff. It's definitely possible.
Yeah. And that's one possibility is they used AI to find like a special vuln. What's more likely in my mind is that they used AI to hit way more targets.
Oh yeah,
With
Scale,
automation.
yeah.
With automation.
Scale,
So it's like they have this thing, it works. And with their team of 16 people, they can only hit so many. But now they just light it up. And now I think what we might expect from that, if that's the case, is that when a bug hits, it's going to hit much larger. Like all the VPN.
What's a way we can tell this? How is there a way that we could tell in the
that's a good
next
question.
year whether we believe that attackers are now using AI because of the increase in either pops that we've seen or
I would say maybe if a
speed?
particular type of vuln or class of vuln or a particular type of campaign hits more people at the same time.
Yeah. I think you have to count on some intermediary technology companies to help us with the data parsing, like Akamai and Cloudflare and stuff like that, reverse proxies. They'll have a lot of logs for that. And then the bug bounty industry obviously is very forward facing when it comes. I mean, some of them are very forward facing when it comes to using AI. So if they're using it, you can guarantee the attackers are using it, because I've seen threat actors copy bug bounty hunters methods like many times in the wild. So
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, I just see it as dueling banjos. You're just going to have the attackers doing the system, and the defenders are doing the system, and like, who's doing it better?
What's interesting to me is like there should be some metric at which, like, if you almost look at, in the past year, like vulnerable breaches reported, well, it's always going up, right? That will always happen. But then there should be sort of a much higher or sort of a peak of, last year was here and now we're 4x. And so hey, these guys are actually using this thing.
But maybe to Daniel's point earlier, it's not going to be an AI attack. It's a particular kind of attack. Like,
I'm looking at the impact.
Yeah,
breaches reported.
Like,
breaches reported, or even to your point, maybe there's some metrics around a certain vulnerability being exploited in a certain amount of time, which, it used to take these guys a month to be able to do this. Now they're doing it in 2 days.
So for example, the SharePoint thing that happened, right? It happened, and then you hear about it 2 weeks later, starts to go somewhere else. Maybe that speeds up and it kind of hits everyone at the same time. I don't know.
Would the scattered spider stuff be a similar example that's going on at the moment, where it kind of went down? It's kind of like, have you guys heard about the scattered spider?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
which part?
Oh, as in the fact that they've been going from one industry to the other.
Industry to industry.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So would
maybe
that
they can hit more at the same time.
Because to your point, it's the same vulnerability, and we've kind of proven to the fact that, hey, we know cross-site scripting, and obviously companies like Expo have proven the fact that you can hit so many of those same, I guess, specialized quote-unquote vulnerabilities multiple times at scale.
That's a great one.
If that where it's transitioning between, hey, we know healthcare doesn't really have the best security, I guess, or we don't know that, hey, oil and gas may not have the best security, so maybe go for that, or retail.
But is AI necessary for that?
It depends on the reason that they were focusing on only one industry.
Yeah.
If they were focusing on only one industry because they had to skill up the whole team on just like learning that industry, is that something AI can help them with to like move to medical and then move to finance?
You know what? I would love to get on this podcast is someone who actually works in the underground and does this stuff, black hat, who will anonymously talk about how are we as attackers really using AI?
Robot voice.
Anyone who's listening, if you know those people that are willing to anonymously,
kind of like Jack Rosado does, I guess.
Talk about that. It'd be great.
Yeah.
I mean, so I do some work with a company that monitors dark web traffic and is in that kind of underground scene. And at least from what I've seen, they talk a lot about using it, but they're using it at like the early stages, like everyone else is. Right?
They're stuck in the same place.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's not all scale automation that we're talking about right now. Right. Like this, like today.
Yeah.
But
they're still in prototypes complaining on why there's not consistency.
I mean, they're just like just like us. We're like, I'm trying to make this bot. It's telling it's giving me hallucinations, and so like I think that they're still in that phase too, at least from what I know. But they want to get there because scale for them is important. It means money, like lots of money. So
this is actually a really important point, because there's like, you have the Google of security, which is like the perfect defenders, like top 99% or 0.99%. And then you have just like the worst possible situation, no security program whatsoever. I feel like it's the same probably with attackers and defenders with AI.
Yeah.
So you have some attackers, I'm sure, they're just like automated everything. They're getting close to agents. They're doing like the DARPA competition.
Yeah.
They've built the system. And then others are probably like, damn it, Claude. I'm blocked out again.
Yeah. Fair. Where's my MCP server when I need one?
Yeah.
Wait, so do you guys feel like the script kiddie definition is going to evolve as well? You know how the internet is always filled with, like to your point, the bug bounty program.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Vibe kitty.
Vibe kitty.
Yeah, it's like vibe
We're just
hacking.
talking about putting vibe in front of everything.
Yeah, exactly.
We're changing the name of our podcast to Vibe Cyber Podcast.
Because I find that, to what you said, a lot of the script kidding was coming from the fact someone releases a bug, talks about how they've done it, people just copy paste the same approach.
Yeah.
Whether it's like a command line shell or whatever they've done, basically like just spam that on the internet, start emailing people for, hey, I found a bug, give me some money to let you know before I release to the internet. What's happening with the script kiddie world, I wonder?
Yeah, I feel like it just keeps abstracting up, right? Because before in like in the 90s, if you couldn't hack unless you could write the code, right?
Yeah, fair.
And then you move back out and it's like it's scripting. So that's literally script kiddie, launch the script.
Yeah.
And you go further out and it's like you just prompt it, go hack it.
We were just talking in a previous episode how now you can script kiddie malware reverse engineering, right? Or reverse engineering finding ODAs.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't require you can, I mean, obviously there's a little bit more work to that, but the level of skill needed now to pull up Ghidra, put it in MCP, go take this thing, try to find ODAs in it has gotten very, very low.
The bar to
the bar to do this
I've not done that yet.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like Ghidra has like maybe 7 implementations of MCP from different authors right now, and like
that is not in my list.
You got to go do this, because now you can be a reverse engineer too.
Sweet.
Well, the thing
I've
is,
always wanted to.
I
Actually.
know. There's still like that ladder though that you have to climb, because like most of the Ghidra MPTPs right now, what they're being used to is just mark calls and refactor code to make it easier for an analyst to review. Not many of them are solving anything better than a simple binary CTF challenge, which is like a Stack Overflow or something.
Sure,
right now.
sure.
So,
Finding a string inside there.
or finding a hard-coded string or something, So it's still maturing. I do believe, like you, it will get there, right?
Yeah.
But like it's still baby steps, right? At least from what I've seen.
Or what what I think of, if I were someone in that sort of sector, there's all of these just old and binaries that are in all of these old products and things that no one thinks of, that no one ever bothers to look at. That now this as someone who doesn't know, I could just go download buckets of these things that no one's bothered, and now just start and probably find a ton of static buffer overflows. In this old online toaster. Shit like that.
Put all that in a rag, and now you have your own expo.
Right.
Do you find that, I think, with the evolution, do we find, as you're saying, we would get there? Is there a prediction that we feel, obviously, maybe before we get into it, there's a conversation that I was having with Edward about how AGI is not going to solve.
Is this drop zone, Edward?
Yeah. So it's like, we were talking about the fact that even if AGI was discovered right now, or super intelligence was discovered right now, the problems of security would not go away, because most organizations these days have a lot of context that we know as employees of the organization or as ex-employees of the organization. We're talking about all these different industries and everything else, a lot of which was never documented, never written about. There are patches that are put in and no one cares about. So even if there was super intelligence actually brought out tomorrow, for whatever reason, Sam Altman or whoever decides to bring it out, we would still not be at a place where we can do security right, because there's be a massive gap hole of, it can't do reasoning based on half the information, half the context. Do you find that to be a true statement?
Well, remember what we were talking about before about like, there's so much friction inside of companies. Like God could actually release a button that solves everything with AI. And like, we wouldn't be able to get the right people on the call to press the button.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, so this is
sorry, she should have holiday right now because it's August.
So this
it just never got rolled out.
This came from a phone call where I was very frustrated with one of our assessments, and I was telling Dan, I'm like, hey man, we could solve all this tomorrow. And the politics around an organization, especially a big one, would not let us use it. And it's like 100%. You wouldn't need a security team, and they'd be like, "Well, this has got to go through these 3 acceptance review boards, and like the privacy of." And they're right. There is privacy concerns and security concerns, but you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. At least,
and also someone powerful in the company who like has a big org.
Oh yes,
will realize that if someone hits that button, like a lot of their stuff gets collapsed. So they're just like, that's not something we're exploring
actually,
right now.
The politics is a big part of it.
I remember talking to a mainframe team, and we were talking about identity access management in a bank. And this mainframe team had been there 40 years. And they were still using no MFA, none of that. I'm just going, I'm talking about single sign-on. This is me early in my career, talking about how excited single sign-on was. And they're like, what is this again? And I'm like, what? You don't need one password. So to your point, those guys were, so we never deployed single sign-on or MFA in that department, by the way, till date. I don't think it happened even after I left that thing 14 years ago. But I definitely find, to what you said about, it's not just the politics, it's also all these old systems, they have individuals who've been assigned to it, whose teams that have been assigned to it. There are people who are getting salaries on this, asking them to just like, actually, you know what? Let AI solve that problem. They're like, no, that is not.
Yeah. Well, also like, so when you talk to someone, you're doing an AI assessment for them, they're resistant to it. I mean, talk about that.
Yeah, so we go in and we ask some very simple questions to teams. They're almost like therapy questions. They're like, what tool do you hate the most in your stack? Like, like some stuff like that, right? And they'll be like, oh, I hate this one because it gives me this output data and it doesn't go into this other system and like input data. And like, yeah, that's a data transformation problem. We could either script that or we could transform with AI at a pretty high reasonable rate. And they're like, no, but that has to be handled by a human because, of the privacy implications of handling the data. And that's my job. I get up every day at 8 a.m. and I do this. And like, and it's like.
I go through the Excel sheet.
But don't you just say that was the tool you hate?
Yeah. It's, it's an interesting one. It's an interesting problem. I wish that my idyllic answer would be like, oh, well, you just work at a higher level of the stack and now you're an expert and you get better at your job. But that's not the reality of how humans protect their.
Because they have a domain and it's like, that's their value to the org.
Yeah.
And you show up and you're associated with AI and efficiency.
Yeah.
And they don't want to talk to you. So to your point, you can have the best AI if you don't have the data to feed it.
But I will say this, like, I think, okay, your thesis was superintelligence.
Yes.
Right. And you're saying, well, hey, there's all this sort of like knowledge that the superintelligence just doesn't know. But I feel like if it's actually true superintelligence, the ability to reverse engineer and identify the things that it needs and requires should be quite easy. Right? Like, here's a great example. Take a code repo. You don't need great commented code or documentation for the code. And AI can now figure all that out. Right? You just hand it the code, it can figure out what's going on, give you the documentation, write the comments. And it'll probably do better than the original engineers did to begin with.
You just release it live on the network. And it just crawls everything and learns everything.
If you've got a bunch of systems, nobody knows what's going on with these systems, assuming it has access to the right telemetry, assuming it has right access in this super intelligence, it will figure it out. It'll be like, okay, I know where all this is going, and like half of this is probably useless, which is why we, going back to threat to humanity, which is why everyone's so scared, because if super intelligence came around and said, hey, half of humanity is pointless, and like,
the early version of this is just like McKinsey shows up with 40 people and suddenly you have an interview on your calendar.
Right. Yeah.
And
the
they're asking everyone, what is it exactly that you do here?
That's right.
Yeah.
And so that's like the early version. But if you have AGI or ASI, then you could literally just let it crawl with credentials.
Yeah.
And it'll build a better map than you could get from interviews.
I think also the superintelligence will be able to define methodologies, right? There are only so many types of entry points into every type of software, right? It's like input. It's an input output problem at the end of the day for almost every type of vulnerability in AppSec, NetSec, binary reversing, malware, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so as long as the superintelligence can define a methodology and the types of attacks and build a taxonomy, which I believe if you're going to call it superintelligence, it should be able to do it. I think it'll get us like 95% of the way there or something like that. Yeah.
Because do you find superintelligence in your definition is the one that can reason, the one that can, to your point, because I also...
Are we really going down this road?
Yeah, that's a whole
we're talking about state of AI security, I guess.
I'm happy to do another 2 hours on
that. Maybe another question on this one is the reason you kind of mentioned the fact that it should be able to, and both of you yourself said, you can crawl into the network and talk about... I also feel, isn't there a gap in terms of the languages of programming languages or the type of application, mainframe? Just having a manual of a mainframe doesn't really mean you understand it, I guess. So
that is true.
Yeah. So
but it would though, because it's also read every other book on computer science and all the history of everything else as well.
There's 2 points. There is a point of, hey, again, if you assume not super intelligence, but let's just assume a model today. A model today will know the language because it's been in its training data because it sees enough examples.
Yeah.
So if you just create some language, it's going to have a hard time understanding it, although it could probably even then reverse some of it enough to figure out what's going on, right?
Yeah.
However, it won't be 100% accurate, right? So it does need something. Then it would go in its context window. And if you fed it in a context, then it would be like, great, I understand this, similar to training data. So yes, if it's some super archaic thing that is completely unknown pattern to all the patterns of coding languages, it would probably have but we're assuming super intelligence here. And super intelligence means I can reverse that thing. And I know enough to figure that out.
There are so many levels of super intelligence. There's just like, are we talking about a system with like multiple PhDs and like 160 IQ? That's a super intelligence. But then there's something like 1,000 times smarter than that. And that's a completely different world. So I think Yeah, I think just thinking of just like
We're going way off,
Yeah.
by the way, in this
AGI,
conversation.
just something that can automate the crawling, I think
Yeah.
would be powerful.
One thing that I've been, I was talking to you, Caleb, before we were on the show about is one of my litmus tests for kind of like testing people about, AI's ability to learn and reason and, about new topics and stuff like that is that it's all context engineering at this point. That we figured out that this year is that if you can feed it enough in the right context to any type of AI system, whether it's an agent, overseer, just a single API call, drastically improves the output of what you're going to get. And so, like you'll see people have new languages or try to assess old languages, and we'll get that jump between having like, maybe a page of extra context or like, 5 pages or one book that we upload into RAG or something like that. Or, we inject into post-tuning or pre-training or something like that. And it will be able to functionally, like the newer models will be able to functionally like get there and find security vulnerabilities because they're already doing it in medical, right? They're already finding like new correlation between research papers that they never thought of before by feeding them into context windows and asking intelligent questions. So I think it's possible, but we're still, like everyone at this table works kind of associated-ish to AI, and you guys run a podcast, but we're at the edge of the halo. Like this group is at the edge of the halo. If you look back at like the customers we work with sometimes, like they have the same kind of questions. Like what is MCP? What is, what is an agent? How do we do it? What is a copilot? I mean, that's still a question. What is a copilot actually? What are we doing? What is a system prompt? What is a context window?
Yeah.
And we're so far out on this edge that we forget that 90% of everyone else is back here, and we're gonna be figuring it out for quite a while.
They'll come back to this episode 2 years later. For the State of AI Security 2027, they're like, we should probably go back to the 2025 episode.
I think only 30 or 40% have used AI at work.
What?
Yeah.
No.
I can't. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know.
I have seen some of the reports around most people have gone and tried AI a couple times and they're like, I don't understand what this is used for.
And they moved on.
And they move on.
And AI was ChatGPT.
And it was
so
like
not even API calls, none of that.
It was it was garbage in, garbage out too, right? It's like, no offense to those people, they asked a short question that didn't have a lot of detail. They didn't specify how they wanted their answer. There was no additional context to what they needed. And so they got a really bad answer and then they just drop it. They're like, AI sucks. Like,
they're really, it's super interesting because like I'm even talking to someone right now who is very intelligent, actually, not some ancient, like they're intelligent. They know what's going on, but they don't understand how to talk with AI and talk to it like a person.
Yeah.
And I'm literally just telling them, talk to it like a person and talk to it like you're talking to me. And I give them examples and I walk a class of like here, like this. And they're like, oh, okay. And then you go and you watch them and they don't know. Like it just doesn't stick.
Yeah.
And they sometimes they like, okay, I can use it like Google. Or start doing it that way. But it's just like, and they ask me this thing. I'm like, well, just go ask AI. And they're like, I did ask. I said, did you exactly say what you just said to me into that? No? Is that what I should do?
They're not making the jump of interacting like a person.
Yeah.
Even I saw Dwarkesh Patel actually came out and he was like, I don't think we're going to have AGI in the next few years. And everyone's like, oh, really? Why? He's like, yeah, I've spent like 100 hours just tinkering with different workflows. And it's just never panned out to me. And I'm like, 100 hours? Those are rookie numbers.
Those are rookie numbers.
We're doing 100 hours a week, 2 weeks.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Wait, so, I mean, that's fascinating for me because a lot of the market at the moment obviously has the belief, there's a lot of vendors in this particular space as well who are trying to talk about how they're already solving the security problems of the world, right? How much of that, and you don't have to name companies, I'm just curious in terms of...
Name companies.
We have the list.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, you have a list?
We plan on going through the list.
Oh, yeah.
I thought we talked about this.
Yeah. I mean, for sure, if you want to go through that list as well.
Yeah.
Where do you find is like a lot of noise, and where do you think people are not talking about at all? Like, what are some of the areas people are not talking about, and what are the gaps in the way people are marketing?
What areas do you think have the most promise in that people are focusing on?
Yeah. So all-encompassing cloud-enabled SIMs, which have already implemented an MCP server, they're they're profiting right now. So the one I know, and I will name their name because I like them, but I'm not affiliated with them anyway, is RunReveal.
Okay.
RunReveal was one of the first cloud SIEMs to implement an MCP server. And if you look at it, it was an amazing transformation. They put out the MCP server, and they don't even know what it's going to be used for. I mean, you define the MCP's function calls, how it calls data, some intro prompts that the MCP will let the user use, and then you let the user find the case studies for it. And then their customers started sending them in, like, here's how we're using it, and it's amazing. And it collates these AWS logs, and like it's able to train our analysts on what exactly this guard duty instance is, or alert is, and why it was enriched, and gives them a whole report. And the killer feature I show in the MCP is the model helping the data that you get. Which is a soapbox I've been on pretty hardcore lately. Is okay. So they hook up the MCP server to the logs, and they're like, okay, who's the riskiest person in the organization? And every infraction inside of the RunReveal log ecosystem has a point score, and so it's like, it's this person. And then they're like, cool, can you create a timeline for me of their infractions?
Oh.
And Claude Code, or Claude Desktop, with artifacts builds a custom HTML timeline. Now, if you guys have worked in enterprise security before, how long does it take you to build a timeline for like a breach or something like that? It is.
I don't know. I tasked that with somebody else.
But it comes back, it comes back half a day, maybe a couple of days later, right? Because first of all, what do you make that in? PowerPoint? Do you like make it in like Markdown? And then you have to enrich the standard timeline with all of the IOCs and the IP addresses, and you have to enrich it with natural language, telling what alerts were here. And so it did it in 2 minutes. And it gives, and so like my thing is that like security logging and SIEM, as soon as they get to agent or MCP, like we're going to get a massive boon to defense. I think it's going to be fantastic. And then I also think after watching that demo, it became very clear to me that the AI companies and the AI companies and the model companies, and I saw it immediately after, they're all racing towards the browser. They want an AI, they want their model as an overlay in your browser, or they want to make a browser that you're going to use.
Yeah, I like this idea.
The killer feature of the next generation of the web, is just-in-time GUIs. This is the killer feature. So you go to any site you like. Let's say Reddit. You're a Redditor. You love Reddit, but you hate the GUI. You just tell the browser, hey, I want to rewrite the GUI like this, and this is what I want to see. And it's in the browser as an overlay. This is the new killer feature of Web 4.0, and they're all racing to it right now. All of them. They're all investing.
There's new browsers coming out that follows this. The other thing.
And as a company too, now you have a GUI, right? And it's just but you don't focus on your GUI anymore. You focus on the data that you can give everybody, which goes to Dan's kind of API-ification of the world idea. And now the browser rewrites it however you want.
And for every person, and especially even different times and situations, certain data is more important than others. And now you can rewrite the way at which you want to view that.
Or you can only look at your subreddits only. You don't have to worry about all the extra ones. Don't tell me about the new ones. I don't care about that.
So another crazy idea around this, around what Jason was just saying, is like, think of the skill that's required if you don't have information. If you're doing like a hunt, you're hunting for a threat or something, you might need like a tier 3 or something because you don't have any context. And in order to get context, you have to go and pull all these different logs. You're crafting a story, a timeline, like Jason was saying. And what I find really interesting about this is the type of thing that AI is really good at, is telling stories, right? Collecting data, creating a timeline or something. And what I find fascinating is like, if you have the story in front of you, like let's say the question is this one particular connection malicious or not? If you don't have any data, you require a super high skilled person to answer the question. If you can have a junior person come in and look at a board fully populated with the time that they came in, exactly what they did, they're like, that's obviously malicious. So the more context you have, the skill level required to do the work goes down.
The other aspect I think I'd also like to call out on browser as well, that I think is also a very big advantage, is all of the context for a person is in the browser. Everything you do, 98% of your work is in this browser that you, if you own that browser, have all of the context of. And you have the ability to take actions in that browser using the same state and authentication of which you normally can use. And so now, like, we actually had an episode on
browser security,
on browser, and like think about the next generation of products being implemented somewhat in this ways.
Yeah.
Right. Like
They're gonna be amazing.
it's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
The browser does truly. We've always said browser's the new OS, and it really has become that, but not in its true reality way.
Yeah.
And this is going to have some interesting aspects.
Yeah,
on
Jason
this.
called that a few months back, and I was like, I don't know. And then all of a sudden, everyone started releasing browsers. I'm like, damn, Jason, that was good. That was good.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
going to say, and maybe I want to challenge this a bit, right?
Yeah.
Because Sam Altman, I'm sure you guys saw the announcement he did with the fact that the way we interact with AI today is limiting, is how he described it. I think it was with Sam Ivey. I can't remember the name of the guy who was ex-Apple creative guy.
Johnny Ive.
John, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Johnny. So they did a whole announcement about the fact that the way we use AI today is very limited in terms of it should just be omnipresent. His words, or their words, I guess. I don't know how far we are because they obviously have a few lawsuits they're fighting against now, but whatever the thing may be. But at least the idea behind the current technology, to your point, we use browser for everything today. Are we also at that point where some of these devices, and there have been multiple versions of it, there's like a
Glasses, pins,
multiple versions of it. So I
You
feel
have the audio one, right?
Yeah, I do.
I think
I do.
Jason has
we were talking about.
Yeah.
I had the Plod Puck that you put in your phone.
the card.
The card.
It's not on. We're already recording here.
But he has it. Yeah.
But I have it,
Yeah.
and
Wait,
actually,
is that embedded in you? Like,
I mean,
I would not be surprised.
it's embedded.
Yeah.
But so
Yeah.
I actually have it as a cloud code tool.
okay.
So we had a friend that passed on a long time ago, but we did our dinner on July 1st. So I can literally ask my DA, whose name is Kai, what did we talk about at the dinner on July 1st?
And it'll take that from your Plod and
Well, it goes and pulls from the API and pulls, and I can ask it any question about it. So it's like abstracted completely away, done by agents.
I've got to go. I've got to go get one.
It-
Now.
Yeah. Your Facebook ad is
That's
going
the way
to
to
be.
go.
Yeah.
That's the way to
I
go.
gotta do
Now
this.
you know what your Facebook ad is going to be about,
Yeah,
right?
because
Yeah.
you can say what were the
gotta do it.
takeaways, what are the follow-ups from that meeting?
So like, in this interesting sort of example of the interface to AI, one of the things that we haven't really seen much of but we're seeing the start of is obviously AI being able to take real-time streaming inputs and being able to decipher that. Audio, I think, being the easiest real-time streaming input to come in. But obviously video is next on that list.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then if you have the ability to both see audio and video, you truly have a real-time assistant or individual always watching and understanding.
Yeah.
Like,
That's where I've been saying it's heading forever. It's like that's what I think. You have the DA, you have the APIs, then you have that whole ecosystem.
I think on the computing side, I think that fits in my mental model as the next step. I feel like there's just like still the scaredness of AI, right?
Yeah.
And so the glasses, all these things, people are not going to adopt it. I mean, tech people will probably.
we're on the edge of the halos.
Yeah, exactly. We're at the edge of the halo.
He's really on the edge.
Yeah, but the
He's got embedded AI.
browser, even my parents know how to use the browser. When the browser changes and when, we have an overlay of streaming AI in every browser, right? I mean, like Google's probably the best at this right now with, Google AI Studio and Gemini. Like one of the things I show in one of my presentations is one of my favorite developers. And he's like, today I'm going to go in and turn on real-time streaming in Google, and I've never used Unity in my entire life. I've never been a designer for 3D graphics or anything. It's like, I'm going to have it teach me how to use Unity. And for an hour and a half, he talks with his computer with the real-time streaming, and it teaches him how to use Unity.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a badass use case for learning something, right?
Yeah.
And just and the inference is a little slow right now. The chat, gets a little annoying because that uncanny valley feeling, but the idea there is super cool.
It's only the worst it can be right now.
Exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
especially when you pair it with like the recall stuff, the Microsoft recall.
Yes.
So it's seeing everything on the screen.
Yeah.
It's seeing all the inputs and outputs. And to Jason's point, everyone's freaked out about that. So it's going to have some breaks.
Except for us, we are excited
No,
about it.
well, I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
As long as you could trust the vendor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or it can be done now in a place where you don't have to trust the vendor, right? Like a great example, OpenAI released their open weight models.
Yep.
You can
Good
run
point.
this on a laptop.
Yeah.
I run my inference on the edge,
Yeah.
right? I can still do that screen analysis with the level of intellect that I need without having to have trust with that vendor.
There was a fantastic talk at the AI Summit about this, about like what can you trust, like, and where the boundaries are. Like, is it your personal home where you run an AI model? But also like, like to the point of bringing inference costs down for AI. Well, maybe there's regional like farms that we use for cities that do compute, and then maybe there's state or like continent level or whatever, and you break down influence to be faster that way. It was a fantastic talk, and I'm like I hadn't even thought of that architecture. Like that would be super cool.
Like almost like a peer-to-peer network, but for AI.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
you define what you trust when you first enroll, and it only uses those.
Yeah.
Or because technically all four of us can have a shared network.
We could.
And then just basically let your DA hopefully not read our DA.
I would totally do that. We just all dump in all the interesting articles, white papers we see every week, and we're just like in that chat. And it's applied to a chatbot too. And we're just like, yo, did you guys see this? And that would be dope. Yeah.
It's like sort of having a shared collective brain.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Which there's some companies which are poised to do that, like Notion and Obsidian are poised to do that.
Oh yeah.
It's not very good AI.
I know. I wish, but yeah. So.
But so because I also, and maybe this is the final question as well, because I just realized we've been already almost going to be an hour and a half. So I should probably,
wow.
So we should probably let people go back to the actual evening as well. Obviously, so the final question: what's your favorite LLMs? I'm going to go with this. Like top 3, if you were to put that into categories, top 3 LLMs that you come to mind that you're probably using quite a bit or want to use.
I mean, it changes so fast, right? But up until this week, and not having benchmarked ChatGPT or GPT OSS a ton, it was, like O3 mini for most writing tasks and analysis tasks of text and combining of text and stuff like that. For coding, it's a combination of Gemini and Claude, basically. So those are the subscriptions I keep right now. I've canceled some other ones, but then like a benchmark comes out and it's like, oh, they released this new thing, or it's less the model at this point and now about the features, right?
Yeah.
So like, like Notebook LLM is one of my favorite features from Google, right? It's like, take a white paper and then turn it into a podcast or a mind map instantly. Like that's a way to synthesize information quickly. I can do it while I'm washing the dishes. And so that feature draws me to that platform, as well as the models are really good, but also like the new features to like on how you use AI are the things that are attracting me to some of the ecosystems. So
interesting how I guess people do fall into patterns. That's why I subscribe to Apple TV because it has movies that I want to watch.
Yeah, it's only a clean interface.
Only available there. Only like damn it, I have to subscribe to that as well. But what about you, Daniel?
Yeah, for me, it's mostly Anthropic stuff.
Okay,
so I'm definitely just living life inside of Cloud Code right now. So that's 4 and 4.1 for Opus until I get throttled, and then I get knocked back down to Sonnet. And then for me, next is like the O3 Pro for ChatGPT, OpenAI. And then I use, for very large context, I use like the Flash models from Google.
Yeah.
What about yourself, man?
I use for writing, presentations, PRDs, engineering documentation, Gemini 2.5. I use coding Claude. I use personal, when I think about personal sort of psych, like just general advice kind of back and forth things, I use Anthropic Claude, Opus. I have been using O3 a lot alongside, and so I'm kind of balancing between Claude and O3. I think O3 has become more of a validator to what I get out of Claude, is the way I kind of use it. I do a lot of my thinking, come up with sort of an output, throw it in O3, debate and discuss, and then take that as a final. If I'm writing papers or posts or things like that, like in finalized form, I go to Gemini 2.5. Because Gemini 2.5, I don't know if you guys experience, but I feel like Gemini 2.5 is very good at debating me. Like it's good it's good at being able to say, hey, versus like if I say in other models, hey, I'm not sure about this versus doing this. Is this good? They're like, oh yeah,
it's an excellent idea.
Versus like actually Gemini 2.5 will go like, no, I actually think the way you've written it now stands good. You should leave it alone.
Yeah.
And so like those are the kinds of things like I feel 2.5 does pretty well.
Interesting. So I'm surprised none of you mentioned Perplexity, which is very interesting.
Oh, that's my Google search.
Yeah, because for me, I in general don't go on news websites too, because I feel it's just basically going to be a negative hole anyways. I usually use that for a news, like a 2-minute news summary every morning for what's happening in Australia, in the UK, in the US, 3 countries I care about. That's where it
Mhm.
lands.
Yeah.
And I use Gemini 2.5 for a lot of writing. It definitely helps me bring a lot of random thoughts that I have into something sensible. And then I can use that to build content and all of that that definitely helps in that perspective. It's actually I find that it's good for storytelling as well.
Mm.
Like I did not realize as a CISO, a lot of factual information has to change into like something that
narrative.
makes sense.
It's got to be narrative.
Yep.
Yeah. And that used to be that hardest thing for me, and maybe because English is my second language or whatever, but I think it used to be one of those, you have a lot of factual information, you can put it on a slide deck, but that doesn't mean jack shit to half the
Yeah,
people
yeah.
unless you have a narrative around it.
Gotta
And it
tell a
does a
story.
great job of it. For me, that was like, oh shit. Like the moment I started doing that for TechRide.io, I'm like, holy shit, this is like, that's been like the most unlocked feature for me. I guess that has made me stick to Gemini 2.5.
Yeah.
Did not do well on, for some reason, OpenAI did not do a great job on it. It's kind of, and to what you said, excellent choice. And every time you question it, like, oh, let me do one more version for you. Now I'm even more confused. But those are top three for me.
And the M dashes too. So many M dashes.
Yeah.
I love the M dash. I've been an M dash fan all along.
That's the problem. Is I used M dashes normally, and now it looks like I just use AI writing.
Yeah, it's a problem. That's a problem. Yeah, I did a post the
think.
other day that had M dashes in it, and people were like, "Did you AI write this?" I'm like, "No, I actually wrote that one."
I use M dashes normally.
But do you guys
really?
feel it's wrong for people? Because I feel there's LinkedIn feeds are now filled with all the startup founders and other people using AI, clearly using AI to use a lot of their content being created, especially when I understand when you're smaller scale and you're being asked by your marketing team, hey, founder, create some content. So I find but that doesn't seem to bother people. Like, do you guys find that actually is?
I mean, if it's obvious and it's not good, then I mind.
Yeah.
But
Right.
But if I find out later after I already liked it that it was AI, I don't care.
Yeah, I feel like because we're almost going to a point where we are normalizing that. Because I feel like there's a hatred towards in the beginning where you should not
There's
be using.
still a big hatred for
There
it.
is.
Oh, really?
Especially in security.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, especially in security. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, because
Yeah.
I guess I don't have those people in my feed. I guess.
The challenge is I think it's hard to tell the difference between a good core concept that you used AI to help you write better versus it just regurgitating some shit and you don't and the problem is you can't now judge people based on the kinds of content they've written.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I can look at somebody, like I used to, like, I can go look at his post and be like, man, you really have interesting, good thoughts. You're really smart, right? Like, I really want to know more from you. And today, he could just be on a beach doing nothing and it just like posts this stuff. And then there's just, there's just no way to judge, sort of
So the trust is
the trust, around this kind of stuff. And, so, if I see just it's obvious it's an AI written post, the problem is the content actually might be okay. It might be like interesting or useful. The hard part is now, how do I know that the person behind it either really wrote that or did not really write it?
Yeah, I think maybe that's where it comes from. Because I feel, being technical people, we've always used code to automate a lot of things. And this is not that dissimilar from that as well. A lot of people have ideas. Say, I wonder if this could be a content. Whatever the type of content may be, it could be a tweet for whatever it's called now. I don't think it's called a tweet. But you're just using technology in your hand for doing what technology is to be used for.
Yeah.
And having hatred for that sounds almost like you should not use computer to hate speech on this. Like,
I just want to be able to hear the core idea that belonged to them.
That's
I don't
right.
care if
That's
AI
what's
helped
important.
them bring it out.
100%. I think I also feel the moat. You were saying there's no moat early. I think we spoke about this earlier, that there is no moat. I think at least for humans, I feel the moat is going to be our individual ideas and thoughts about these things. I think that would go beyond an AI.
How do you tell? How do you tell the difference?
Yeah, well,
There's
that's
just no way.
That's a podcast episode.
Like,
for
how
another
do you
time.
tell I wrote a blog post that was that really his original core idea or not his original core idea?
Or just the marketing person who basically thought, what do you think?
You scraped the top 30 Reddit topics, picked one, wrote a blog post about it, stuck it out there, all automated pipeline. Who knows?
Yep.
Well, great way to end the episode on a high note. So, guys,
this entire podcast was generated by AI.
Thanks 11 lives.
There's a notebook LLM version coming out soon. But, I mean, obviously, grateful that you guys joined. Where can people connect with you? And maybe I'll start with you. Where can people connect with you, learn more about what you're doing?
Yeah, just danielmiessler.com is the central point. You can jump from there.
and unsupervised learning and everything
Yeah,
else comes out.
unsupervised learning. Yeah.
Awesome. What about you, Jason?
So our company is arcanum-sec.com, and you can find all of our training and services there. And then if you just want to follow my random stream of thoughts, mostly it's on X, which is X/JHADDIX. And so that's where I put out most of my stuff.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining. Thank you, everyone else, for tuning in. I know it's a super long episode, an hour and a half. Hopefully, they can.
This is not really going to be an hour and a half.
Hopefully not. We'll
Yeah.
figure it out. I mean, it will be true. It's a true testament of true fans on podcast
Yeah.
to hold on for a
Yeah,
while.
you can release the edited version and the unedited version, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh.
yeah.
And okay, by
Director's
the way, whoever gets to this part, if you can leave a comment somewhere that you were at the 1 hour, whatever, 25 mark or whatever. So it'll be awesome.
I'll
to
give
hear
you a
that.
prize.
Yeah. We'll give you something for sure.
Yeah.
But thanks, everyone. See you next time. Peace. Thank you for watching or listening to that episode of AI Security Podcast. This was brought to you by techriot.io. If you want to hear or watch more episodes of AI Security, check that out on AISecurityPodcast.com. And in case you are interested in learning more about cloud security, you should check out a sister podcast called Cloud Security Podcast, which is available on cloudsecuritypodcast.tv. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.